Good morning, YouTube world. It is Tuesday, April 18th, 10:29 a.m. What is today? I think if you are one of these people that pays taxes like a normal person, it is tax day. I won't get into that. Anyway, speaking of taxes, though, I just got an email. I was just checking my email because that was on my schedule before my live stream, and I got an email from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops that says the following. And this is particularly relevant to me because I do use the VA system for my healthcare system. And I find this fascinating. Let me read it and then I'll give my comments. It says your tax dollars could pay for abortions for veterans. The U.S. Senate will be voting soon on whether to overturn a recent Department of Veterans Affairs rule that provides taxpayer-funded abortions on demand for veterans and their spouses and kids. For decades, the law has stopped the VA from providing abortions in its healthcare benefits package. Last September, the VA violated this law, as well as longstanding practices preventing taxpayer funding for elective abortion, and issued a regulation to provide such abortions, even in states where they are now illegal. Further, the rule does not protect the conscious rights of workers who could be forced to participate in abortions. The U.S. Senate will vote soon to overturn the VA's rule, and your senators need to hear from you. Please tell them to not turn VA hospitals into illegal abortion clinics. Women, especially, are heroes in need of care, and their children deserve better. And I find it fascinating that the VA wants to go down this road. Like, meanwhile, we can't even get dental care. Like, we can't even get our teeth cleaned. Like, we are not provided with any dental care, even if you have a service-connected disability. Under very specific circumstances, apparently, you're able to get your teeth cleaned. I don't know. Unless it's like some sort of like emergency, like you need a root canal, it just doesn't happen. Like, there isn't even basic dental care, but these jokers want to go and talk about abortion. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with the VA performing any kind of surgery on you, especially abortion. You'll probably die. Godspeed. Okay, so I'm fired up this morning. So I want to read from the Spirago and Clarke Catechism again on communism. And actually, they have it worded in here as socialism. So if you don't know, communism and socialism are essentially the same thing. The only difference is communism is the more violent brand that promotes revolution, whereas socialism is more insidious, more oriented towards like government policies and things like that. And why I want to address it is because I have firsthand knowledge that there are actual communists and socialists among the clergy. So I have a family member who does these government data collection surveys. So they're about all different things, but it's how the government compiles their statistics. So like she did a lot of the COVID studies, calling people, knocking on doors. But one of them is in regards to like the demographics of certain political beliefs, certain political standings, I should say. And so it's broken down into categories, like among the religious, among, just different demographics. And so she tells me, it is very common for her to call a Catholic, clergy if they'll talk to her, or other, Protestant clergy and things like that. And they will admit to being socialist, using the words, I am a socialist, saying that. And that is among Catholic priests, Catholic clergy. So I have firsthand knowledge that this is, in fact, the case. We do have a problem with this ideology in the church. And like I was saying yesterday on my little short 7-minute video, if you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. But I was pointing out the fact that, and actually, you know what? Let's talk about that for a second before I get into the catechism, because there is a comment on here, and I hope they don't mind that I pointed out, that I want to read. And it is, I love the name. It is from Stella Maris, and I hope you don't mind me reading this on here. So my video yesterday was called Catholicism versus Communism. And I was explaining that. So I had posted on my community board a video called Beyond the Reset. Go watch that. And it is basically the woke agenda. It is the plan of the woke agenda. It is communism. It is their plan for us, Satan's plan for us. And I explained why Catholicism, the Roman Catholic Church, is the only answer. It is the only institution on planet Earth that will put a stop to this quick, fast, and in a hurry, except for the fact that we seemingly have gone woke and are going along with this and are asleep and think we're getting baptized by some fake Holy Spirit, which has lulled us to sleep. So the revolution, the woke revolution, happened in the church before it happened in America, is what has happened. And so we have to, until the world's not going to be corrected until the church is corrected. So we have to fix ourselves. So everything that's going on in the world right now, we need to own it. And we need to look in the mirror and say, this is our problem. This is our fight. And we need to live authentically Catholic lives. And I'm not talking go to some Life in the Spirit seminar and feel good about God. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about old school, pick up your cross, grind it out every single day, Christian perfection. Not everybody goes to heaven. The path is narrow, Catholicism. I'm talking like, there are encyclicals and declarations from popes, many, many popes, on the evils of communism. We need to start bringing those up. We need to start reading the clear teachings on socialism. We need to un-F ourselves. Excuse my language. But that is the only way anything is going to change, okay? And in the Holy Spirit crowd over there, with the baptism in the Spirit charismatics, I'm going to pick on you because y'all are waiting for some divine intervention. And that's great. But there's a reason that God has already given us everything that we need. And there is a reason why Our Lady of Fatima came in 1917 and commissioned us to fight communism. And what did she say? Did she say, go and sing praise and worship to Jesus and take on Protestant prayers and change the Mass and feel good and because God's merciful? That is not what she said. What did she say? Penance, penance, penance. Why? Why did she specifically highlight penance? Why did the Seers of Fatima have a serious, they seriously highlighted the role of penance in Catholicism? And the answer is because soft Catholicism will not defeat hardcore communism. The only thing that's going to defeat hardcore communism is hardcore Catholicism. And so penance, penance, penance. If you do penance, penance, penance every day, you build discipline. You walk towards Christian perfection. You cannot overcome the devil in the world until you overcome the flesh. It's all about discipline. It's all about overcoming yourself. When you overcome yourself, then you're unstoppable. Then you add in the grace of God, the supernatural grace found in the sacraments, and no communist satanic agenda is going to stand a chance. Unfortunately, we want to go sit and sing Kumbaya and praise the fake Holy Spirit. It's not going to cut it. I'm sorry. Your prophecy and whatever else you think you have that you know, it doesn't matter, because when it comes down to it, you haven't built up a habit of overcoming yourself. So when in the face of adversity, you're going to fold. Just like you see all the politicians, the Republican politicians folding, and all the soft Catholic clergy bowing down to Black Lives Matter and all kinds of communist stuff. And just get the job so you can, keep people safe. You don't want to kill grandma, and on and on and on. That's why we're in the trouble we're in. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything else other than Catholicism has gone soft. So I pointed out that there are two versions of communism fighting for power right now. So you have like this Eastern brand, what I would call like the Eastern brand, which is like Russia, China, CCP style. And then you have like the wokeism. And this person pointed out, and I got to thinking about it, and I agree. I agree, sort of. She says it's all an Eastern plan as far as like the Great Reset is concerned, as far as the Great Reset goes, because that's what this specific video was about. And so I pointed out, like, basically there's Russia and that world order, the Russia-China New World Order, and then there's the woke New World Order, which is like NATO, right? And it's basically like, how do you want your communism? Do you want it with or without gay parades? Because that's pretty much the only difference. But then I got to thinking, like, the gay parades and the LGBT and all this stuff, all this, because she said it's an Eastern plan, all of it. And I have to kind of agree, and I'm going to tell you why. Because these LGBT people, I don't even know the initials, honestly. The fact that they're using minorities to bring down the West, basically, is what's happening. it could very well be a Russian-China plan. I don't know. I haven't looked into it that deep. I'm sure it probably is. It could be. But as soon as the communists get into power, you LGBTQ and all you liberals, you're fools because you're going to have no rights either. Like they're going to turn on you. They don't give a you know what about your rights or your sexual preferences. You're a pawn. They're using you to bring down society and bring in communism. And as soon as that happens and they have their social credit scores and they have this and that and all the other stuff, they're going to turn on you. You'll be in the gulags like everybody else. Seriously. So let me read this. I'm fired up today. I told y'all. She says, you have got to get your hands on, and I think I will look into this and probably read it on this channel. And I can't really say it. The perestroika deception. It's PERESTROIKA deception in 1995. So she says you have to get your hands on the P deception 1995 and New Lies for Old 1995 by Soviet KGB defector something, don't know. I think I've heard him speak though. I've seen clips of him on YouTube. You can find the PDFs of both books online. Jeff Nyquist and Trevor Loudon, that name sounds familiar. Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon on YouTube are outstanding experts on the topic of Russia, USSR, communism as well. Goltsizan accurately predicted, among other things, the staged collapse of the Soviet Union well in advance, as well as the realignment of Russia with China. In reality, the two never split. Henry Kissinger, George Soros, Klaus Schwab, Robert Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and many, many others are all Soviet KGB assets. The American left are just trying to cover their own tracks and further deceive, throw off the rate. Now, I want to inject something here really quick, which kind of made a light bulb go off in my head. Hillary Clinton sold Russia. If we're really fighting Russia, right? Why did Hillary Clinton sell like depleted, what is it? I forget the stuff, uranium, the stuff to make nukes to Russia, like 20%, a high amount of our supply she sold to Russia. I'll have to fact check me on that. I brought that up before, but the terminology, is it depleted uranium? I forget, whatever you use to make nukes. Okay, so and further deceive, throw off the rate. The Great Reset / New World Order is actually an Eastern-led world communist revolution that was a century in the making. Freemasonry is getting crushed. Well, let me tell you about Freemasonry. I talk about this all the time. This goes back to Protestantism. So it was Protestantism to divide Christendom, to divide Christians, okay? After that, you allowed the Freemasons to come in wearing a Christian mask. And then with their Enlightenment and their revolution, their French Revolution, and the birth of America and all this stuff. But that was a temporary solution. The goal was never to, keep republics around. That was never the goal. It was always to come in with communism. It was always for complete control. It was just a stepping stone. This whole thing that we're witnessing is basically Satan's plan and his minions' plan to get rid of the Christian monarchs. It's an exchange of power from the Christian monarchs and those who stand with Christendom to those who stand with Satan. And that's really all that has happened, all of it. Okay. Freemasonry is getting crushed, but it is getting crushed by something even far worse, which is communism. They're almost inseparable. Communism, if you go back and read Adam Weishaupt, the Illuminati founder, his original ideas were for communism. It's just the Freemasons gave birth to communism. Davos, WEF, is a Chinese Communist Party front, with China actually being the junior, not the senior partner to Russia. Putin is a Marxist-Leninist, and the Russian Ortho Church is ran by that's true, by the KGB / FSB. There's absolute proof of all this. I know for a fact there is proof about the Russian Orthodox Church. And here's where I disagree with people like what's his name? Michael Matt from the Remnants. He tries to simplify the issue. And by doing that, he is playing right into the hands of Russia. Remember what I told y'all about how Satan operates. He causes the problem and then presents the solution. That is exactly what's going on with Putin right now. The problem that originated, we could say, from the Bolshevik Revolution times, as Our Lady of Fatima said, but it's before that. And there is some evidence that that was a Freemasonic thing, the Bolshevik Revolution. But anyway, let me stop getting off track. So the problem is wokeism, right? That's what Satan has created, wokeism, the liberal ideology. And so people that like Michael Matt from the Remnant are rightfully disgusted by that. The problem being when they hear somebody like Putin come in with the solution and start speaking out against wokeism, they automatically side with him. And that's a very dangerous thing to do because that is also of Satan. It is easier in Russia to be a fortune teller than it is to be a Roman Catholic. So don't forget who your allegiance is to. Don't side with Putin. Okay. There's absolute proof of all this. Also, check out Flying Saucers from the Kremlin by Nick Redfern. Interesting. Nyquist recently posted a fantastic article about the whole UFO deception as well. Zachariah Sitchin, who widely propagated the ancient astronaut theory. Yeah, is that the, maybe this viewer is watching, is that the, whatchamacallit, ancient aliens? It's all so ridiculous. Was born in the Soviet Union and likely another KGB asset. And as for Elon Musk, yeah, this is interesting. He was inspired by a 19th century Russian philosopher, 19th century Russian philosophy called Russian Cosmism. And I've covered in depth the Eurasian plan, their actual plan in their own words, in their philosophy. And that Dugin guy was a big part of that. Remember his daughter got off? Remember that whole thing? Also, the modern state of Israel was founded by a large wave of Russian and Soviet immigrants in a violent revolution against the then occupied British forces. David Ben Gurion, the country's first prime minister, was a Marxist Zionist who named the country Israel. While certainly not all the Israeli people are communists, it is nonetheless intriguing that the heirs of Russia played such a key role in the founding of that state. Yeah, and they are like trying to get the Israel's a mess right now. They are like trying to get the Christians out of like Bethlehem. The whole country got locked down, forced vaccinations, you name it. Even more mind-bending is the fact that Russia, USSR then turned on Israel and began aligning with and arming their Arab neighbors and seeding anti-Western propaganda among them. Modern terrorism was born in Russia. Their whole intelligence services apparatus are experts at hybrid warfare and playing all sides. That is a fact. Those are facts right there. I don't know about the other stuff. Those are facts. They are experts at intelligence, in counterintelligence, in false propaganda, in playing all sides. They actually put the West to shame, if you can believe that. And the American left, right, and center are getting played so hard right now. Yeah, don't feel bad for them. They're cowards. They're not getting played. They're evil, they're corrupt, and they're cowards. Sister Lucia, where's my cat? My cat's going to come running in here. That's her name. Sister Lucia, where are you? Sister Lucia, Sister Elena Aliel, Bishop Fulton Sheen, probably the seer of Garabandal, and Father Malachi Martin. Look up Malachi Martin, Kiev, Russia on YouTube for an old interview, as well as his book, The Keys of This Blood. We're all so right. But the 20th century will join the counter church because it claims to be infallible when its visible head speaks ex cathedra from Moscow. I don't know anything about that on the subject of economics and politics, and as chief shepherd of world communism. Fulton Sheen, Communism in the Conscience of the West. Fascinating. Keep up the excellent work and God bless you. God bless you too. And I love the name. All Catholics must be on guard now more than ever before in history. And I think there is a lot of truth to this comment, and I will look into these resources and get back to y'all. I don't know enough of it. I just call it like I see it. And there's certain things that are very obvious to me, and I worry for my fellow Catholics who cannot see this. It's so like in your, like, it's so obvious, like to me, but whatever. Okay, so let's get to hello chat room. Good morning, Mr. Joshua. Just came in. Church and society go together. Deny yourself, maybe to demoralize. Yeah, that's a good point, Mr. Joshua. I think the charismatic movement does demoralize people, because if you watch, like, it's so pathetic. Let me not go to confession over this. Please just get away from it. Just old school Catholicism to maintain your human dignity, your Catholic dignity. I mean, Putin, yes, Putin was a young global leader at the WEF. They all were. They all were. That's what I mean. Like, I see it as like there's these two sides, but this she has valid points, or he has valid points of this whole thing as well. And clearly they've done a lot of research into this topic more than I have. It could just be that we're just the wokeism that we're seeing, the liberal wokeism right now is simply a phase. It's simply not going to be the final outcome. It is a phase to get us to CCP/Russian style communism. It is a tool. It is a control tool. It is a way to bring down society. But just so y'all know, you transgenders and you gays out there, you're being used. They don't care about you. You're pawns. They're going to turn on you. Jesus cares about you. Catholic, an authentic Catholic, cares about your soul. I care about your soul. I want you to live out your life in a way that will bring you to eternity, not destruction. Okay. Let me stop running my mouth. Here we go. Socialism. It is actually a violation of the 10th commandment. In the 10th commandment, God forbids us to endeavor to possess ourselves of the property of another by unlawful means. In God's sight, the will is equivalent to the deed. Evil desires are sinful as well as evil deeds, as the act is accomplished in will. Therefore, transgressions of this commandment must not be omitted in confession. Council of Trent. So if you're a communist or a socialist, or you're supporting these policies, you need to go to confession. That's where you need to go before you receive the Eucharist. Socialism. In our own day, a large proportion of the so-called socialists or social democrats aim at depriving their fellow men of their private property by unjust means. And so again, this was written in the 1800s. Social democracy, or the rule of the people, proposes to construct human society. It is of recent origin, being first started in Germany in 1840 and propagated some 10 years later by the notorious Jew Marx. In 1862, another Jew named Lassalle, and so it was, yes, started in Germany, and this goes back to the Illuminati. I know it sounds like I am on some crazy conspiracy. I'm not. It's documented in their own words. I have the writings. Adam Weishaupt is the father, if you will, of communism. So that's what I mean. It's communism it really was born from Freemasonry and these secret societies. Okay. So in 1862, another Jew named Lassalle was very successful. Are you kidding me right now? This is going to be on the list of banned books pretty soon. The commies are going to call this hate speech and start burning these. So if you have one, hold on to it. This is what do they call it? You're an anti-Semite. In 1862, another Jew named Lassalle was very successful in spreading socialistic doctrines, so much so that in 1878, a special law was passed for the suppression of socialism. Associations and meetings were prohibited. Publications advocating its principles were seized, and the leading agitators were banished from several of the large towns. From that time forward, the work of propagation was carried on covertly in the workshop and club room meetings being held in the woods, and pamphlets circulated privately. In 1880, a socialistic congress was held in Zurich, attended by members from all the countries of Europe, to arrange a general program for the universal upheaval of society and subversion of the existing order of things. Since then, the system has made steady progress and assumed a revolutionary character, why we would call it communism, because it's communism that has the revolutionary character. Those who resort to open acts of violence in order to accelerate the disintegration of society are called anarchists. Switzerland is a hotbed of socialism. Isn't that where all the rich are from? Yeah. and they have their meetings, right? What are their meetings in Davos? Not Davos, Bilderberg. That's Switzerland, originated there. Switzerland is a hotbed of socialism, and there the principal organs of the society are printed. Socialism has gained ground chiefly on the continent of Europe. The subject of socialists is this: they want all private property to be confiscated by the state and capital and labor equally distributed among the members of the state. Moreover, many of them would do away with religion, authority, social order, and family life. The fundamental principle of socialism is all property has been unjustly acquired. Consequently, in the new republic, no one is to possess personal property, but is to be provided for out of the public funds. Everyone must work and with the proceeds of his labor purchase what he needs. In the new republic of the extreme socialists, there is to be neither the ordinances of religion nor the institutions of law. These men openly declare themselves to be atheists and Republicans. They say religion concerns the individual alone. Isn't that America? Isn't that where we live now? Yeah. Just you can just whatever your beliefs are, it's none of my business. Just do it in your house, right? Yeah. But that is not Catholicism. Catholicism is a very out in the open, outside processions, statues outside your house religion. So they don't go hand in hand, and we will not sit quietly in our houses and practice our religion. Okay. The intercourse of man and woman is to take the place of wedlock. The children are to belong not to their parents, but to the state, to be educated at the public expense. A public kitchen is to supersede the domestic hearth. Prisons will not be needed, for there will be no criminals, since all crime comes from the possession of private property. These principles have spread chiefly among the irreligious, who care only for the gratification of their appetites in the lower orders, which is why Our Lady of Fatima comes and says, penance, 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 to get your lower orders in check. Because if you don't do that, you won't do anything. You won't be effective anywhere. You will only be effective if you overcome your lower appetites, and that includes your emotions, and that includes your senses. So I don't know why the Holy Spirit would come and go against Our Lady of Fatima and promote all of this sensual religion where it's all about feelings and your senses. I don't know. I don't know why he would do that, because he doesn't, and he didn't. That's why. So these principles have spread chiefly among the irreligious, who care only for the gratification of their appetites in their lower orders. I can't read this word, proletariat, who in the division of property have nothing to lose and all to gain. They are mostly held by certain ones of the laboring class who have been thrown by peculiar circumstances into the arms of socialism. Yeah, it's because they don't want to suffer, and so they want what's not theirs, what they don't have a right to avoid suffering. Again, it's throwing off the cross. That is the problem, which is why the answer is to embrace the cross. The organ in the development of socialism is chiefly to be ascribed to the increasing poverty of the working classes, the greed of gain and immoderate craving for enjoyment among the rich, and finally, the decrease of religious feeling in all classes of society. As in the human body, disorders for the most part originate in the stomach, so discontent among the people generally arises from material want. The prevailing destitution among the lower orders is partly due to the employment of machinery. So this was during the Industrial Revolution, right? And so now we're in this, like, the fourth industrial, where they want to eliminate humans. Yeah. So it's the same thing, though. Machines, robots, that's what we're up against. They're taking jobs at McDonald's, aren't they? So machines can produce in a few days more than 100 workmen can in a month, and goods can be manufactured at a far cheaper rate by machinery than when made by hand. And isn't that how China gained its global status, manufacturing? Consequently, hundreds are thrown out of employment. Through the introduction of machinery, wealth has accumulated in the hands of the manufacturers, and the number of the poor and discontented has increased from day to day, swelling the ranks of socialism. The employers, striving to make larger profits, in many cases do not treat their work people according to the maxims of the gospel. They reduce their wages to a scanty pittance, the market value of labor being so low. They require them to work for lengthened period. They heed not the bodily health of those they employ and even destroy their sense of religion and morality. These and other evils naturally have the effect of rendering the workmen irreligious and discontented. Factory hands employed constantly in working machinery are apt to lose their mental vigor and independence. They perform their task mechanically and are easily beguiled and misled. The exhaustion produced by long hours of labor disinclines them to raise their hearts to God. Thus, they neglect their prayers. The wretched state of their homes, where several families live crowded together on account of poverty caused by the low rate of wages, adds to their moral degradation. Moreover, the sight of the rich man's greed of money on the one hand and his extravagant expenditure and love of luxury on the other excites the envy of the poor man and arouses in him the desire to satisfy his idea of happiness at the cost of the capitalist. Thus, God punishes the rich in the way that they have sinned. The socialist is the scourge wherewith he chastises them. In the present day, the Christian faith is more and more undermined by an irreligious press, by godless, irreligious press, that's the media, by godless associations, notably the Freemasons, and in some lands by anti-Christian legislation. Witness the exclusion of religious instruction from the schools. What wonder if the belief in God in a future life grows dim? The divine commandments are unheeded, and the people, craving for happiness in this life, seek to wrest his wealth from their richer neighbor. If the dangers wherewith socialism threatens us are to be averted, the condition of the laboring class must be ameliorated. The rich must be liberal towards the poor, and the religion must regain her place in the hearts of people. Coercive measures will do no more good to the socialist than random blows will correct a naughty child. If anything is to be done for him, it must be done through kindness. Above all, the employer must deal with his work people according to the principles of Christianity and justice. Kettler is right when he says, if for one day we all acted in conformity with the teaching of the gospel, all social evils will at once be swept away. The employer must pay his men properly, that is, their wages must be sufficient to support a Christian family suitably in their station, provided they are thrifty, industrious, and virtuous. And that means not taking all our money for taxes. Why does the state think that they have a right to more than 10%? God only asks for 10%. Is the state above God? I don't think so. The position of the workman must be secured. He must not be treated as a chattel, only to be employed as long as a good profit is to be got out of him. As the workman pays taxes, he is entitled to the privilege of the franchise. Opportunities of improving his mind should be afforded to him by the institution of libraries, evening classes, and the formation of working men's clubs, which the Holy Father strongly advocates. Legislation must also interfere to prevent the undue growth of the proletariat through the absorption of lesser industries by the manufacturers and the accumulation of capital in the hands of the few plutocrats. The rich ought, as the apostle says, to give easily and communicate to others. Now more than ever, the rich are bound to give alms. Otherwise, they will be rigorously judged. But religion affords the most effectual means of combating socialism. Social democracy is too often nothing but the absence of religious belief. Its chief dogma is the non-existence of God in a future life. Its chief commandment, the gratification of the senses. Moreover, religion alone can give the poor the spirit of contentment so essential to their happiness. 4. Some of the socialistic theories could not possibly be realized. Others might indeed be carried out, but they would be attended by fatal consequences. The universal equality which socialists propose to bring about is an utterly impractical idea. It's just a bad idea on its face. Never mind the religious aspect. Bad ideas, especially in regard to property. For if the state apportioned to everyone the exact amount required for his livelihood, what more probable then that one would spend it all and another put apart by? Thus, an inequality would immediately arise, and to force the surrender of a man's savings would be sheer tyranny. The same endless variety which we see in nature exists among mankind. Difference of age, of sex, of health, of physical power and mental endowments, above all of character and of manners, cannot be effaced. And from these, differences of position and of possessions are inseparable. Just as in an army, all the soldiers cannot be officers, nor all privates, so all members of society cannot stand on the same level. Some must manage the business of the state or occupy themselves with military affairs, and they must naturally hold a higher rank than the other members of the state, because they work more exclusively for the commonwealth. The happiness the socialist dreams of is not attainable upon earth. Whatever the exertions that may be made to ameliorate the lot of man here below, none can succeed in eliminating from it suffering, sickness, and death. And that is what it's about, my friends. That's what they're trying to do. At least they think that's what they're trying to do. Eliminate suffering, sickness, and death. But it's actually a culture of death. So it's like they're trying to eliminate suffering, sickness, and death for themselves, basically. Sorrow and suffering are the proportions of mankind. A life of peace and enjoyment is not for this world. True happiness is not to be found in sensual pleasures, but in God. While the whole world lacks crime, vice, and poverty cannot be banished from it. Our Lord says, "The poor you have always with you." And in regard to the proposed absorption of individual property by the state, this could not be accomplished without serious disturbances, for who would be willing to surrender his property without a struggle? And where community of goods once introduced, tranquility would not be attained. The oppressed minority would, out of revenge, commit fearful outrages. Besides, laborious and industrious individuals would not be content, as they would gain nothing by their industry. Thus, the working class would lose instead of gaining. Socialistic theories could only be realized if men were like the lower animals, destitute of the love of liberty and the desire for improvement. Socialism would cast a blight upon culture and destroy all stimulus, all motive for the exercise of inventive genius. Few would exert themselves to make progress and aim at perfection if they knew their achievements would bring them no reward. In the socialistic republic, all would be slaves. No man would exert himself to do better than another if he knew all was provided for him. There would be a premium upon slothfulness and negligence. Experience has shown the evils brought upon mankind by the example of communities which have had their goods in common and which have been noted for their crimes and have come to an ignominious end. But although the dreams of the socialists are mere fantasies of the brain, yet like much else that is undesirable, they are not without a certain use. As a hurricane tears down what is rotten and crazy, so socialism points out the weak points in the social structure and compels our rulers to institute the needed reforms. Attention has been drawn preeminently to the exploitation of the labor by the capitalists, and the claims of the poor have been brought into notice. Yet the harm done by socialism is far greater than any possible good it may indirectly produce. Whoever endeavor by law means to deprive their neighbor of his personal property live in a state of mortal sin. The mere fact of coveting what belongs to another is a sin. We know that all sins bring others in their train, and this is no exception to the rule. St. Paul says that the inordinate desire of money is the root of all evils, and the utterances of socialists at their gatherings prove the truth of these words. Their speeches often abound with violent attacks upon all in authority, on the Pope, on priests, and civil magistrates. And how often do we hear that? Oh, does the church really need to have those big cathedrals and all the gold tabernacles? And isn't the church supposed to be poor and all this stuff? Yeah, we hear it all the time, especially from the Protestants. That's who we hear it from. Yeah. So I guess maybe the Protestants share a lot in common with socialists in that aspect. Some go so far as to assert that perjury in a court of law is permissible if it furthers their own interests. We know the crimes of which anarchists have been guilty: dynamite, outrages, and assassinations. Let it not be said in behalf of their principles that the early Christians had all things in common, for the voluntary sharing of goods is quite different to what the socialists propose to enforce. The fundamental principle of Christian charity, which urges to almsgiving, is this: brother, what is mine is thine, whereas the socialist says, brother, what is thine is mine. Again, the socialists point to the religious orders, where all is the property of the community. They say what is possible for them is possible for the state in the future. There is, however, no analogy between the two. For voluntary poverty and obedience form the basis of the religious life, while in the state of the future, sensual gratifications are to be encouraged and enjoyed. And that is the end of the section on socialism. Okay, so I think I'm going to end it there. It is 11:09. I went 9 minutes over my schedule today. But that's okay because I was early yesterday. And Mr. Joshua, they say, oh, no, you're not reading the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. I've not heard of that one. Mr. Joshua says, the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion we should read because it'll probably get banned soon. Yeah, it appears that nothing is safe. Everything is on the chopping block. Everything is getting canceled. So that's all right. That goes both ways, though. That's what they forget. So anyway, return to authentic, hardcore Catholicism. Fight dirty, spiritually speaking. Joan of Arc Media out.